Beginning students of esoteric astrology, although they acknowledge they know little about the subject, because they know little about the subject, can't help but have already formed in their minds some idea of what this subject is all about. Otherwise, why would you be watching this video? Although preconceptions are common, they are seldom helpful. And by and large, having a preformed opinion about a subject is most often the first obstacle any teacher or mentor must overcome in the student. In fact, the student thinks that he or she knows what the teacher is going to or should be pointing out to them. Of course, if they did know, they would not be a student. And the teacher, who would see that the student already gets it, would not be trying to point out the topic. Now let's introduce a more important factor yet, and that is the truth of any topic is seldom what you expect, almost by definition. Expectations can't define, and you can't expect to find what you expect. In fact, expectations usually don't help a situation at all. Students tend to assume that there's something to get at, some thing or object of knowledge that the teacher has and will give to them or point out, that they can't quite get their hands on or their mind around. Now, in esoteric studies, there is nothing, no thing to get or to get to, any more than there is a particular end to get to in this life, other than the physical end of life, and few of us are in a big rush to get there. So what I'm trying to say here is that learning about esoteric concepts is more about preparing the student to have the right attitude or view than it is about getting at something. If all it took was telling the truth, then the sages and the philosophers and the lamas throughout history, they've already told us everything. If we don't get it, if we didn't get it, so to speak, it's because we were not yet prepared to receive it, and we did not have the right mindset. Our mind was not set like a receiver, to gather in or to take it all in. We couldn't tune it in, and that's what I'm working on here. So, what frequently can appear to the student as endless backpedaling on the part of the teacher, endless digressions like this one here, and putting off getting to the point that they're waiting for, is simply that there is no point like that. There's no such hard and fast thing like a point or a fact when it comes to these esoteric studies. In particular, it's true. And that's not a bad thing. The teacher has to kind of break this news to gently disappoint the student from looking for the point or their preconception, the preconception that the student has preformed in his or her mind. And instead of that, gently help to orient the student to receive and experience the actual idea, the idea that by definition the student does not know and has not yet experienced. So it's very much like setting the sails on a boat. Often nothing more than an adjustment of attitude or approach. The student does not yet have the correct attitude. They're not properly oriented. In fact, in most cases, students come from a linear attitude, looking for something that they can imagine they see down the line, so to speak, the next step, so to speak. Often what is given is not a next step, linearly speaking, but rather a change of orientation, a change of attitude that enables a new or fresh view of the same old world that we're living in. In fact, if you think about it, that is what most of us need, a new way of handling what we already have. This is not unlike the task of the midwife, who on occasion has to turn the baby around inside the womb until it's oriented properly and can be born. It's the same idea here. In other words, the teacher has the unenviable task of turning and tweaking the student's mind until it can receive the knowledge. And here, quote, receive the knowledge, unquote, means to be able to experience and thus get it for themselves, to get what the teacher is pointing out. Real knowledge is not a thing to get, not something to understand, but itself a knowing. It's an experience that we each need to have for ourselves, an experience after which we don't need a teacher on this subject anymore. The teacher points it out. The student tries to get it. And the teacher questions the students for signs that the student got what was being pointed out. If not, the teacher continues to try to adjust and position the student's mind further, and then repeats the pointing out instructions again. And this process goes on until the student gets it or gives up. In the realm of esoteric knowledge is what we're talking about here. Simple intellectual understanding is nowhere near enough. We each must experience for ourselves what's being pointed out. We have to see, not with our brain, but with our heart. Especially if we ever hope to be able to point out to someone else what we've learned. Pointing out or understanding intellectually what we read in a book is just a kind of rote memorization. Real learning must be a life experience that we have, not just some words on a page.